Yep, you saw right. Today, I will be briefly reviewing the newest Beavis and Butthead project from Mike Judge, and all I have to say is that Mike Judge hasn't lost his touch. It's still hilarious as ever and idiotic, and the voices of both characters still sound the exact same as in the 90s. The supporting cast was very enjoyable, especially Serena and even the government people I thought were interesting. My first complaint is how this being a Beavis and Butthead property, Principal McDicker and the hippie teacher were very prominent in the show, and I think even more in the first movie, but even them being no shows except for a couple seconds of runtime, this was still a very enjoyable comedy movie that wasn't boring at all and had a hilarious ending. The plot of the movie is Beavis and Butthead are at a science fair in the late 90s still. I think this movie still takes place after the events of the first movie, I believe. Beavis and Butthead, like they always do, mess with things and are pretty much so clumsy and destructive they burn all the projects and are sentenced to court where surprisingly aren't convicted but are sent to a tour of NASA because the judge believes the two of them need to broaden their mind, which is a recurring thing in the show with how the two of them they don't get in trouble sometimes because people feel so bad for them. They are sent to NASA and are messing with this machine that I won't explain what is happening, but the astronauts are so fascinated with how well they do this and bring them along for their launch, where they also must go through training. And the funny side of the story is Beavis and Butthead believe they are there to, quote, score with a female astronaut, which is just another example of how idiotic they are and also the people that misinterpret them. They are up in space still believing they are there to bang this woman in space, and to no one's dismay, they ruin the mission by completely destroying the rocket. So our female astronaut, Serena, is so mad at them, she leaves them stranded in the endless void of space, where they come across this black hole, which was the whole mission of the flight, was to find this black hole, and they get sucked into it and wind up back on Earth, which I thought was a different version of Earth at first, but they are actually in the year 2022, and I believe this is what Mike Judge wanted to do the whole time, which was to bring Beavis and Butthead to the present day without them aging and it being sort of logical. Not like every other cartoon where the main characters don't age like Family Guy or Simpsons even after 15 years of runtime. And there's a 30-year gap between this year's movie release and the last one, so everything is modernized and Beavis and Butthead must conform to this with phones and their internet being a new concept introduced to them, but them being stupid wouldn't understand it in the first place probably. So Arena finds out that the same boys she stranded in space are alive and she thinks they are coming back to kill her even though they are looking to score with her. The government thinks they are aliens or deadly terrorists and are also after them. Beavis and Butthead steal some dude's phone and use Apple Pay to buy a bunch of stuff and also put in their house coordinates on the GPS to find their way back home because they are currently in Texas. On the way, they meet their superior selves that travel from a different universe and warn them that they need to go through a portal to get back to their time or both universes will be destroyed. This has to be the most elaborate and well thought of plot for anything Beavis and Butthead before, and that's why it's so good, not just because it's inappropriate humor, but also the plot is pretty good and full of challenges. The superior versions tell Beavis and Bunghole that the portal is on Mount Everest, which is pretty dumb for them being so smart, which they explain is still them being dumb compared to everyone else in the world. They are just the smartest versions of Beavis and Butthole, which still makes them dumb. The two boys get stuck in a porta potty and get taken to a college where the funniest scene happens. The portal also was moved to where the college is by the superior versions, but Beavis and Butthead don't care still, and after crashing a cop car, find themselves in prison, where Beavis does his classic cornholio that starts a riot and gets them sprung from jail. They are still being pursued by the government and Serena, and with their luck, the warden of the jail sends them on a bus back to their hometown, where they find their house that they've been living in, completely modernized and on the market. Beavis and Butthead get into a fight and eventually split off from each other and get abducted, one by Serena and one by the government, both still believing they are getting something from Serena and wants to kill both of them because she is still haunted by how she basically murdered both of them by leaving them in space. Both her and the government are working together now and don't notice how the boys escape their entrapment and are just chilling in a nearby car, and all of them just drive by completely oblivious to them A funny action scene happens where the boys are chasing Serena and them in the car while going in reverse, and the government guys, believing there's some highly trained hitmen, they all eventually end up back at the old house, which was the one in the show, and also the one that they were at earlier. And in a bizarre twist, Serena learns that they were the whole time just boys who wanted to score with her and didn't mean to sabotage the mission or kill her, and they all realize that they're just dumb teenagers. The movie basically ends with Serena's partner, can't remember his name, but whatever. He gets sucked into the portal that has been moved to the house, and Smart Beavis, which he calls himself, Mr. Steelio Girls from original Beavis, and Smart Beavis and Butthead return back to their universe through the portal, where they receive medals for being the first versions of their kind of finally scored. I, for one, like how the ending isn't emotional or anything cheesy like that. It's just a classic twist and ends in a hilarious fashion. Alright, and that's basically a wrap on the story. I don't have anything else to add on to the complaint list than what I already did. There was really nothing wrong with this movie, and this was so much better than the first one, in my opinion. I rate this masterpiece a 9 out of 10. It's not a 10 based on the fact that it's kind of short, which, I mean, wasn't really that bad to me. And none of the original star characters from the show were in it, except for Beavis and Butthead. But anyways, nevertheless, it's a watch. Please like and subscribe, and goodbye.